Hey everyone, Reaper here again with another video. This time I'm going to be continuing with my Halloween themed books. I'm going to be focusing on coffin slash cemetery covers. Remember the last one I did only focused on morgue covers, and I didn't have too many, but I was able to show off some pretty cool ones. Well, for this I have to break this up into two videos because I have a ton of these. And for all I know, and I'm sticking with pre-code, okay? For all I know, I'm probably forgetting a few of them too. So if you've seen one in my collection in a previous haul video or whatever, and you're like, hey, how come it's not in this one? It's probably because I forgot. It's just like, it was maddening trying to go through all the books that I have that have a coffin on it, or a tombstone on it, or a tombstone and a coffin on it. So I just hope you like what I chose. So for this video, it's going to be a two-parter, like I said, because it's really big. This one will concentrate on the raw books, and the second parter will concentrate on the slabs. All right, not as many slabs, but a decent amount for a video. But I certainly have a lot of raw ones. So again, no Bronze Age, just pre-code. So let's start off with this one. Uncanny Tales, and I still have the Halloween lights. Halloween themed. Uncanny Tales number 13. Here's this invisible guy that's being torn apart by these two zombies in this cemetery. Again, I don't think this is a very well-known or sought-out pre-code book, Uncanny Tales 13, but, you know, it's worth getting. And for those of you that want to start collecting these type of books, whether they're cemetery books or morgue books or just pre-code horror books in general, this may not be a bad one to get because I think it's fairly inexpensive. Now, here's one that some people may know. Mad number 3, my favorite Mad cover. I have the most memories of this. Here is Mad number 3, and you know the idea about Mad. This is not Mad Magazine. This is when it was Mad Comics. But here you have the little vampire and this guy. You know, again, what I said in the last video, EC books, they'll focus on one guy. He's saying something or thinking something, and that's something maybe he's something to be worried about, and the something that you're supposed to be worried about is like right next to you. And it says right here, they said there was a vampire in the cemetery. There's no one here but a little child. Well, that's the vampire. Here's one, another EC. We got quite a few ECs in this. EC, you know, there was like a coffin cover every other issue. Tales from the Crypt, number 42. Cool vampire coffin cover. Absolutely. I got this from good old Ted. Here's another one. Tales from the Crypt, number 26. You know, Wally Wood cover. Okay, for those that know who Wally Wood, like to collect Wally Wood, here's a good one. This is a little different. This is like what I was saying before in the other video with EC. There'll be a character talking about something that they should be worried about, and that something they should be worried about is like right next to them. This is a little different. It has nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with that. All right, let's put one more before I clear this off. Here we have Vault of Horror number 16, a very, very basic coffin cover. And a lot of people like it. And this, you know, speaking of, I think in the last video I was talking about with the lights and the cemetery and all that stuff. I did that for Comic Book Haul number 3, which was Halloween themed. Well, not necessarily Halloween themed as it was more horror themed. That's when I showed off my 2 Walking Dead books, which sadly I no longer have. Well, one day I'll get one of them back, probably in a higher grade. I showed off my House of Secrets 92, and, you know, Tomb of Dracula 10, I think it was, which I still have. I still have both of those. But this book here showed up in the next video, which was Comic Book Haul number 4. I think it was New York Comic Con, the very first New York Comic Con I attended. So for those of you that are longtime fans and all that stuff, and you watch the videos, this, you'll know, was my very, very first original EC horror book and my first Golden Age book. And it's still here. You say, are you going to... It's like a 4.0. Some people ask me, are you ever going to upgrade it? I'm like, yeah, probably one day I'll upgrade it. Are you going to sell this one? I don't know. There's a little bit of nostalgia for me with this. You know, I try not to get too nostalgic with certain books because there were books that I had in my collection, right, that I had since 1993, and I sold. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe you sold that. And I was like, man, I'm okay. So who knows? We'll see what happens. Anyway, moving on to the next one. Like I said, EC, you know, it's like every other issue with a coffin cover. Here we have a cemetery and a coffin. Pretty cool. Last issue of Haunt of Fear, number 28. We're going back. a little earlier for Haunt of Fear. Haunt of Fear #5. Great cover. It's one of my favorite. Johnny Craig cover. The guy digs out a body. What a mess. But they'll never think of looking for a fresh corpse in the coffin of a man who died in 1867. Yeah, pretty cool. Really cool. And now we're going to step away from EC for just a moment. I believe this is Atlas. It doesn't, I think this eventually became Atlas. You could correct me in the comments. But I think this is a pretty cool cover. It's not crazy, but it's pretty cool. Coffin cover. It just seems so unusual. Suspense #9. It's just so unusual, Again, not as graphic as some of the others or as cool as some of the others, but it's still a coffin cover, and one that I usually don't see too much. Every time I watch a video, when I do, or go to Instagram, I don't see this book shown at all. So I saw it, I bought it from good old Ted. All right, let's go back to EC. All right. Here we have a cemetery cover. This also, Haunt of Fear #14. This is also the origin of the Old Witch. It's also the origin of the Old Witch. Cemetery cover. Very vaguely, a cemetery is here, but it's a cemetery, for sure. Here's one, last one before I clear the counter here. We have Tales from the Crypt #35. Not only is it a cemetery cover, it is a werewolf cover. So this is a double whammy for any type of horror/Halloween video. I think this is the best werewolf cover. And we'll get to another werewolf cover in this video. I think this is the better of the two that I'm going to show because this werewolf looks really scary. He looks intense. He looks like he's about to attack the little kid that's reading this. I think it's really good. Really good. So let me gently remove these and we'll look at the next batch of books. Here we are again. This time it's a zombie in a cemetery. I think this is often seen as one of the classic Jack Davis covers from the Tales from the Crypt run, where you have this zombie with his head busted open and a worm coming out, and is coming out of this grave, and right next to this guy who's digging another grave. Let's step away from EC for a moment and let's take a look at Atlas. We have Spellbound #21. This is pretty cool. Pretty cool cover where you see the bodies in the water and these two guys, skeletons as it appears on the cover. And there's a cemetery, obviously a cemetery in the background. They're carrying a coffin. Again, another one of those cool covers that sometimes I don't think a lot of people spend too much time with. Here we are back at EC. Now, is this a cemetery? No, but it's a tomb, right? Here we have the sarcophagus and a mummy coming out. And again, one of those old EC things. Mummy. Who would believe in such nonsense? Well, here he is. War Against Crime #11. This is the first EC horror book, I believe. Not necessarily the first EC horror story. I think that's Moon Girl something. I don't remember what number it is. I don't have it. I don't have it. But I think this is the first time horror was actually put on the cover of an EC book. And this is the second appearance of the Vault Keeper. Talk about a hard book to find. This is probably like a nice 5.5. I got to send it in for grading, honestly. I really want to send this in. But this is, I think, a nice book. Really cool and very just hard to get. Here is probably, you've heard me talk about this book over and over again. Haunt of Fear #12, cemetery cover. One of my favorite, if not my favorite, horror cover of all time by Graham Ingalls. And, look at the way he drew the zombie. Like, the hand is all like, everything's so disproportionate here. Teeth, arms, faces, noses. You got it. It's all there. But it's such a nice cover, though. You could see the intense fear in these guys. It looks like this guy's eyes are closed, but they're not. They're open. And just the way the background with the tree going over the moon and the light, the colors from the moon illuminating the dark blue sky. I mean, it's really a wonderful job on a cover. One last thing about this book, when I was collecting EC books, when I started to collect EC books, 6-7 years ago, something like that, regularly, I should say. I said to myself, I don't care what condition I get them in. I was getting 2 5s, 3 0s. I was like, no big deal. Because like I said in a previous video, upgrading video, sometimes, when people collect superhero books, which I was definitely doing, the resources are not there for all things. If you're going to collect superheroes, you stick with superheroes. If you collect superheroes and then you get into pre-code, your resources are going to be spread thin to where you may not be able to get certain grades. And that was the case here when I started collecting ECs. It's like, well, my resources are mainly going for superhero books, decent-looking superhero books, or at least I'd like to get decent-looking superhero books. Therefore, there's not a whole lot of money left to get decent-looking horror books. But with this book, what's the point? The point is, I had a 2.5 copy of this years ago. That was my first copy. This one popped up on Super World years ago. And it's a 7.0. At least I think it's a 7.0. Could be a 6.5. But anyway, it's a nice copy. That's my point. And once I bought this, that's when my mood started to change. And I started to think about things a little bit better, a little bit more when it came to resources and all that stuff. And of course, my resources actually increased over the years, of course, because I, have a pretty good job. So that's when this was the turning point, the catalyst, where I started saying, I'm going to start upgrading these ECs, or the ECs I get, I'm going to try to get them in a certain grade. Started with this book, this copy at least. And what better copy to start it with? Like one of my favorite covers, if not my favorite cover of all time, right? All right, we have a little bit more, not too many. We've got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more. All right, and then that'll be the end of the Raw video, and we'll tune in next time for part 2. Here we have Tales from the Crypt 39, another first for me. This is a great cemetery cover, great Jack Davis cover. And here we have, moving along, Haunt of Fear number 9, another cemetery cover with these two kids. One's, shushing the other one has his hand over his mouth, watching these two guys do something that they probably shouldn't be doing. It's an okay book. It's not one of my favorites, but it's definitely a cemetery cover. Now, speaking of this not being one of my favorites, let's go from that to probably my favorite Tales from the Crypt book. Nice 4.0 copy. I would probably like to get a 6.0 one day. But Tales from the Crypt number 23. Here we have a guy locked in a mausoleum. This is the story Last Respects. Okay? But here we have that same zombie that tends to appear a lot in these early Tales from the Crypt books by Feldstein. Same looking zombie from number 22. And you see him again in 24, the swamp one, the famous swamp one. Looks the same, looks to be like the same zombie. But anyway, definitely one of my, probably my favorite Tales from the Crypt book of all time. And a really cool cover. And one last thing before we have 2 more to show. This is the cover of the EC Big Book, as it was called, that came out in the 1970s. What was it called? Horror Comics from the 1950s. They used this cover for that book. Pretty cool. Here we have Vault of Horror number 29. I upgraded this recently to a nice 7.0 copy. It's a gorgeous copy, but aside from the condition of it, it's a mausoleum. The name of the story is The Mausoleum. So just like the last one, where the guy was trapped inside a mausoleum, this guy's trapped in a mausoleum too. It looks like he's not just dealing with one zombie, he's dealing with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 is what I could say. 7 zombies. And these zombies, they look weird looking. Look at them. And they get a bit of a glare, but look at the color of the suit this guy's wearing. I think Mary Severin did the coloring, but this is such a great looking cover. And I think it's underrated. I mean, it's not underpriced, that's for sure. But it's, depending on the copy you get, But it's definitely underrated, I think, when it comes to some of these Vault of Horror covers. Really love it. And let me just fix this up a little bit. And for the very last one, it's a quite tame book, but I saved it for last because it's probably my favorite Vault of Horror cover. And it's the one that has the most meaning for me. Vault of Horror number 13. It's the second issue of Vault of Horror. Again, same thing, easy. Oh my God, what could have happened to her? Oh, there she is. I'm not going to read the whole thing. But this is a nice 6.5 copy. This is a cover that I fell in love with when I was reading those Gladstone reprints. Remember I told you with Tales from the Crypt number 3 and the real Tales from the Crypt 39? with the kids running in the cemetery. I forget, was it that issue or was it another issue where they showed this cover in one of those books? And ever since I saw it, I thought it was just like so creepy, you know, this really cool mausoleum with a highly ornate molding and an empty coffin and these two guys trapped, and you can see a little bit of the cemetery and the moon in the background and the beautiful purple colors. I mean, I think that's purple. I am colorblind. And the yellow, I mean, I thought it worked so well. And it was just so beautiful. And I was always enamored with it. And when I finally started collecting these books, when I made that decision years ago, and remember what I said earlier, the resources, I tried to get low grades because, you know, I didn't care. I was able to find a low grade 2.5 copy of this, and I bought it. But then when I wanted to do upgrades, I upgraded this book several times. Now, if you watched one of my comic book haul videos, I think it was a recent one. I don't know what one it was. Maybe August or July 2023, where I showed this book. Got it from my friend Mike. You know, like I said in the other video, he doesn't disappoint. Got it from Mike, and this was like, I've had so many copies of this over the years. Just trying to get the right copy was a pain in the ass. You know, the first one was a 2.5. Then I upgraded to a 3.5. Then I bought one from Heritage, which turned out to be restored. I had to turn that one back in. Then I bought a 5.5 CGC copy, which I thought, in this year, too. Within 2 months, I upgraded it again. I was like, well, you know, the 5.5 copy's good. And I sold it off to get this one because I saw this with Mike, and I was like, oh my God, this is really cool. And I said, screw it. I'm getting this one. I'll sell the other one off. And I did. So, you know, the 5.5 was okay. You know, it was nothing to brag about. There are better 5.5s out there, but I was happy with it. But when I saw this one, it was like a no-brainer. I was like, oh, this is the copy. Will it be upgraded again? Well, if this is a 6.5, I'll probably have to have it graded just to confirm it's a 6.5 or at least a 6, especially if I want to upgrade to, let's say, an 8. Good luck finding that one. But if I wanted to upgrade to an 8, I would have to sell this one. It would definitely need to be in a slab, because trying to say, oh, this is a 6.5, and someone says, well, I think it's this. And I'm not dealing with that. Let's CGC decide. But I'm happy with what I have right here. This is both front and back, inside and out. Beautiful book. Thank you for watching, everybody. I know I probably left out some cemetery coffin covers from my collection. I know I probably did. EC and all that stuff. I purposely left out Bronze Age. But if you know of any other books that you think are cool, look at. I'm always looking to expand my cemetery coffin collections. Let me know which covers you think are cool. Which one was your favorite from this whole bunch? Answer the questions in the comments. I'll get back to you. Thank you for watching, but stay tuned for part 2 with the slabs. Take care, everybody.